appears ordinary until you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
It's so good to have you join us on CoreTV News at 7. I am Frank Omalapia. Here are some of the stories filing in at this time. The African Leaders Summit on Terrorism in the Kenyan capital of Nairobi has ended with resolve to work together and create a united front in the fight against this scourge on the continent. The summit, under the aegis of the African Union and hosted by the Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, had in attendance the President of Nigeria and Somalia, Goodluck Jonathan, and Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, both of whom are currently battling Islamist insurgency and Al-Qaeda-linked group. The one that failed to work will be disastrous for the continent. The one-day summit also aimed to review AU's effort at combating terrorism in Africa. Some of the leaders spoke on the need to come together to combat the scourge of the terrorism on the continent.
I have no doubt that the Nairobi meeting will mark a new and important step in our collective efforts to prevent and combat terrorism.
You will agree that globally terrorism has also become intrinsically linked with other transnational crimes, including drug trafficking, poaching, money laundering, therefore exasperating the threat to our continent.
The choice of Nairobi as the venue of this meeting is highly symbolic. It is an expression of our union's solidarity with Kenya and its people as they confront the terrorist threat arising from Al-Shabaab activities. We will not forget the shocking acts that engulfed this city just 1 year ago during the Westgate attack.
The Nigerian Army has reviewed the curfew in Maiduguri, the capital of troubled Borno State. In a press statement by the Deputy Director, Army Public Relations, Sani Usman, the curfew hours on the town is now 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. The curfew formerly on the town was from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily, and the additional 2 hours was handed down due to the deteriorating security situation in the state, especially as a result of an increase in the number of attacks on some towns. Usman in the statement says no one was exempted from the curfew. And the recent attack on Bama by Boko Haram has brought to the fore questions on the fight against terrorism by the Nigerian Army. Speaking on a flagship program called Digest, a legal practitioner, Tunde Kolawole, says corruption in the military has been a major setback in curbing the insurgency ravaging the nation.
Take the recruitment to the Nigerian Army, for example. Before you can get to the Nigerian Army today, you will require either to have a letter from one general, from one emir, from one police commissioner or IG or police. So if people go into the army with that kind of background, not that they want to make army an vocation, not that they are convinced that is a place to be, but because they simply wanted a job and they think the army is a place you get your regular salary, because they have connections in the high places and other, they get in there. When they get into those places and other, I'm sorry to say, these are not people who might be able to deliver on the challenges that the army require.
Meanwhile, public affairs analyst Bola Oba says the Nigerian military has been on the forefront in repelling the insurgents.
One who believes, either foolishly or whichever way anybody looks at it, I'm one who believes that given the contemporary antecedents of Nigerian soldiers, these boys are heroes. They are fantastic fighters. And I'm not saying it because I just want to sound very patriotic or very eulogistic to our servicemen. The commendations they get from international services they give to United Nations are indicative enough that our boys are not cowards.
Over 100 days since the kidnap of the Chibok girls from the government secondary school Chibok in Borno State by Boko Haram, the President Women Rights Initiative, Joe Okalo-Dumaki, says it is a shame that the government has not done enough to rescue the girls. She called on Nigerian mothers to be hopeful and continue to cry out until the girls are rescued.
I just want us to realize that the rescue is a collective responsibility of all of us. We must do all we can. No, we can never forget those girls. They are today, they are tomorrow. They are our heroine. We can never, ever forget them. And that is why spending one day with the terrorists is like spending 1,000 years. Governments, people, all of us must do all we can to rescue those girls. The terrorists have mother sleep. I've not slept since the day those girls have been taken. And until they are rescued, I can never sleep. So girls, wherever you are, it's about 135 days now. We are with you in solidarity. No, never. We can never lose you to terrorists. And terrorists, wherever you are, they should realize that women brought them to this world. And with that girls that they have taken, they wouldn't have been brought forth to this world. Please, they must release those girls. And as we all join forces together, that rescue is important, it's paramount. The girls must be rescued.
Over 7,000 support groups have called on President Goodluck Jonathan to declare his intention to contest for the presidential election in 2015. This was contained in a report submitted to the Presidential Advisor on Political Affairs, Rufai Al-Khali. An 11-man special committee was set up to restructure the Goodluck Jonathan support group across the country. But after receiving the report, the Presidential Advisor says the next stage is content analysis.
One of the preliminary observations from the report of the team is that contrary to our earlier position that there were about 3,000 groups rooting for Mr. President, we now have more than 7,000 groups, support groups nationwide, all calling on President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan to declare for the presidential race. With the report of the Screening Evaluation Committee now submitted to us, we are going to the next level. That is to say, we shall undertake content analysis of the report with a view to properly positioning the various support groups for the challenges of the 2015 general elections.
3 or 4 point terms of reference. While doing this, I want to assure you we do not restrict ourselves to the confines of this office. We went around to all various stakeholders that had to do with what GSC should do or what the general support should be for Mr. President to sail through, knowing that this time around we have an opposition that is virulent, vibrant, and very, very vehement. So we believe the parameters of the electionary campaign for this 2015 election will be very, very different from the past 2011 election. So on this note, I want to assure Mr. Special Advisor that my committee and I were able to put together a report that we know will help your office, help the general support groups, and indeed the party is coming up with a very dynamic campaign trail that will ensure a smooth and landslide victory for Mr. President come.
Independent National Electoral Commission says Nigerians will experience a better electioneering year in 2015. The Commission said this in Abuja at a town hall meeting on continuous voter registration and permanent voter card distribution. Paya Samuel has more.
One of the preliminary observations from the report of the team is that
these youths have come from all parts of the country to meet with INEC representatives here. They have so many questions to ask INEC representatives. Some say they were not aware of the distribution of the permanent voters card, while others felt enough personnel were not deployed by the Commission to handle the exercise. One after the other, they raised their concerns.
When the first voter registration started, it was something else. We go there, I can't sit there, we go there with fans. Just to register, just to register, the temporary voters card. We go there, it was something else altogether. Some persons say it's no longer interesting. After all, anyone that enters there, there's no work, nothing.
When I went down there, what I saw, well, I was not
INEC representative Emmanuel Akim is also concerned about the challenges faced by the Commission during the exercise, but also gave an insight on the ways INEC carried out the distribution of the voters' card.
Any of the citizens that wants to collect their cards has to make another effort. I know it's difficult for ordinary citizens that are impoverished. The excuse is that I don't have transport fare to go to the local government office, but I think for a citizen that is strongly desires to exercise their franchise can make that sacrifice.
In spite of a 3-day extension of the exercise, there are still calls from some quarters that the exercise should be extended. But the INEC representative gave a different reason why the exercise could not be extended.
The statement by INEC, which we released, that there will be no extension, had some reasons to it, that the logistics of the extension, we could not cope with the logistics of the extension because certain things need to be done at the planning table before we deploy. And that would be an extension more than required. So we were not ready because the logistics were not there.
With the successes achieved by INEC in Ekiti and Osun State, this youth says if Nigerians support INEC, the 2015 election will be better.
But we have confidence in the Commission. We know the Commission can organize credible elections in 2015, but there are certain gaps, certain loopholes that need to be covered, and it's our duty to continue to pressure the Commission, because this is about pressure. Citizens need to hold INEC responsible, and one way to do that by holding them accountable is to continue to engage them. We need to knock on INEC doors and ask them critical questions. What are you doing to better elections in Nigeria? And all of these questions actually need to be asked. But we are confident INEC can organize credible elections.
The 2015 election is only a few months away, and INEC has promised to work towards a free and fair polls. But for Nigerians, nothing short of a credible process will be acceptable. Pius Samuel, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Now, Enugu State Governor Sullivan Chime on Monday swears in Raphael Ifanchukwu Imwoye as his new deputy, saying his administration has replaced a faulty part. The new deputy is taking over from Sunday Onyebuchi, recently impeached on allegations of gross misconduct by the Enugu State House of Assembly. In a brief remark after Nwoye had been administered with the oath of office by the Chief Judge of the state, Innocent Umezorike, at the Government House, Chime likened his administration to a vehicle which has just been repaired. He also noted that Onyebuchi's impeachment was for the good of the state. He expressed confidence in the new deputy governor's ability to discharge his responsibilities effectively in line with the demands of the office, noting that both of them served as commissioners in the administration of former governor of the state, Chimaroke Nnamani. A former deputy governor of Enugu State, Sunday Onyebuchi, has been redeployed to the Enugu State Civil Service. CoreTV News learned that the deployment followed Onyebuchi's impeachment and the subsequent appointment of a new deputy governor. Onyebuchi was a staff of the Enugu State Civil Service before his appointment to the political office. The former deputy governor's current rank in the service was also not disclosed. The chief press secretary to Governor Sullivan Chime Chukwudi Achife confirmed Onyebuchi's redeployment. You're watching CoreTV News at 7. We'll take a break. Be back with more stories. Join us again.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then news. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Glad to have you back on CoreTV News at 7. Now, the federal government has denied placing a ban on rallies in the aftermath of the outbreak of Ebola in the country. Health Minister Onyebuchi Chukwu was speaking against the backdrop of claims that the government has been breaking its own directives by ignoring a series of pro-Jonathan rallies in some parts of the country. He cited the recent Osun Osogbo festival, which was held in spite of Ebola virus, to justify why Nigerians should not allow the disease to affect normal day-to-day activities.
We have not banned mass. You can also see that the Osun Osogbo festival was holding. We're not stopping mass. Life must go on. When you have a government who is on top of the situation, you should go about your life. But you must do so, particularly now, with caution. So we work with them. So even for that rally, we worked with them to screen people. We did, if you were in Port Harcourt. So we are working with everybody, and then we told them provide hand sanitizers freely to all the participants. So we're not trying to create panic. But where you think you can do without, we are just advising Nigerians, where you think you can do without it, you can postpone it, just like the Minister of Culture and Tourism and Culture and Natural Heritage postponed the National Festival of Arts and Culture. So you have an option. You can decide to postpone, just like we've also postponed the date of resumption of primary and secondary schools.
The World Health Organization has voiced concern about the unprecedented number of healthcare workers hit by the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. More than 120 health workers have died and over 240 others infected so far. The disease has killed a total of 1,552 people and infected 3,062 as of August 26, according to WHO figures. In Guinea, where 430 people have died, nurses say they lack basic medical equipment to treat patients and had been bought items such as gloves and protective clothing themselves. Health workers also protect in Liberia, which has been hardest hit by the outbreak with 694 deaths. The government has denied permission for any curfew or crew to disembark from ships docking at any of the country's 4 ports.
Before we can return to work, we need the month of August salary, we need our proper equipment to use to work with, and we need insurance benefit, we need extra per diem to motivate us because our life at risk. We are at the front page. Coming here today is not anything because we choose the profession, as I said. But equally so, if anything happens to us tomorrow, let us be at the stage that our family tomorrow will not cry alone.
While medical screening of passengers was also causing long delays at Monrovia's International Airport, but a 21-day quarantine thrown around the city's West Point neighborhood was lifted on Saturday. Air travel to West Africa has been badly hit by the disease. 8 of the 11 international airlines serving Monrovia have suspended flights, including British Airways and Air France. The WHO and the West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS have both called for travel bans to be lifted, saying medical screening should identify at-risk passengers instead. Moving on now, the Lagos State government has given its full backing to the new resumption date recently announced for the primary and secondary schools nationwide by the federal government as part of efforts to contain the spread of the deadly Ebola virus. The state government made this known when it received protective items from a telecommunications firm. Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola, while receiving the donations, assures that the government is doing everything at its disposal to stop the Ebola virus from reaching epidemic level. Abiola Oluwole has more in this report presented from our studios.
Governments at all levels have been joining forces to contain the spread of the deadly Ebola virus since it was imported into the country by a Liberian-American, Patrick Sawyer, in July. The recent reported cases in Rivers State have also continued to put government on their toes. Addressing the media during a donation of a personal protective items from telecommunication company, Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola says the October 13th resumption date for primary and secondary school by federal government are further action to check any epidemic that could arise from the spread of the Ebola virus.
Our official resumption date was 15th of September. We will abide this new date and hope that a more rigorous discussion and evaluation of the risks will be in place. Let us also not forget how this disease works, that it's not airborne. You need to be sick to be able to transmit it, and so on and so forth. So ultimately going forward, the realities are that from what I know, if you are sick sufficiently to be in a transmitting mode, you will not be able to go to school. So, but again, every sense of precaution at this moment must be taken in terms of sanitation, hygiene, and all of that, and reducing human contact as much as it is possible until we can say that the coast is clear.
He added that human capacity development that ensures sufficient numbers of virologists in Nigeria would go a long way in combating the spread of Ebola.
We are here to lend our support. First of all, to express our appreciation and to lend our support. We had already started supporting your cause by providing call centers where the Ebola hotline, where your doctors are there responding to any inquiries that might ensue.
The donor of the item says the action is in support of government efforts aimed at halting the spread of Ebola virus in Nigeria.
You're still watching CoreTV News at 7. We'll take another break. We'll be back with more stories after this time out. Join us again.
Glad to have you join us on another edition of The Political Arena, the most detailed and incisive political show.
If you are a sitting governor and the opposition is able to stomach structure against you, that means you are wicked to the people.
They gave me 20 minutes to move or they will shoot me.
He has no chance for survival. If he likes himself, this is the best time to get out before he perishes.
The PDP as a ruling party has failed.
To anybody who thinks that government will fold his hands and allow miscreants to take over the streets of our own state and cause havoc is deceiving himself.
The good, bad, ugly, and beautiful sides of the Nigerian political system. Join me every Sunday at 9:15 p.m. on CoreTV News.
It's still CoreTV News at 7. And in sport now, as the crisis that has taken over Nigerian football shows no signs of abating, a member of the committee of the Confederation of African Football CAF and former board member of the defunct Nigerian Football Association, Paul Bassi, has sounded a note of warning to the warring parties of an impending FIFA ban. Bassi, a veteran sports journalist, says the avoidable crisis, which is based solely on the alleged selfish drive by some individuals to take over the leadership of the nation's football body using the seat, which he added is against FIFA's rules.
Nigeria is in the process of changing the leadership of Nigerian Football Federation. After 4 years of the Aminu Megari administration, we're supposed to have an election in August. But suddenly, there were attempts, moves to rush him out of the office before his term expired. And FIFA says, no, you don't do it that way. FIFA says there must be an election. If by the 4th of September elections are not held as stipulated by FIFA, FIFA will have no choice but to ban Nigeria, suspend Nigeria from world football. Those who are trying to hold this country to ransom are selfish. They are thinking more of themselves than of this country, and they should please comply with FIFA directive because we will hold them responsible should this country be suspended from world football. The only way out is for the minister to tell those who are now in power, because they have supported them, to tell them to leave. That is the only way. If they don't leave by latest the 4th of September, definitely I can assure you this country will be suspended. Football especially, we are talking about football and not even sports, it's like a religion in Nigeria. You know, everybody, whenever Nigeria is playing, you can imagine the millions of people that forget about religion, forget about ethnic consideration, forget about tribe, and come together. You know, you see people hugging themselves on the streets when Nigeria does well. That is how big football is in this country.
Well, and that's a wrap on CoreTV News at 7. Many thanks for watching. I am Frank Omalape. We'll be back at 9:45 for our Prime Times Bulletin. Good evening.